I spent years letting people believe I had failed, and the worst part was that my own family led that belief. By the time they finally learned the truth, 3 helicopters were landing in their backyard, and every cruel word they had ever spoken came crashing back on them. That Thanksgiving became the day they realized they had spent years judging the wrong daughter. I took a bus to my parents' house for Thanksgiving, just like I always did. My family had mocked that choice for years because they believed success could only be measured by expensive cars and flashy lifestyles. My older sister Claire loved showing off her luxury vehicles, while my parents constantly compared me to her. Every holiday became another opportunity to remind me that I was over 30, still riding public transportation, renting a small apartment, and supposedly wasting my life chasing an impossible dream. What they never cared enough to ask was what I had actually been building. 8 years earlier, I had started an aviation company with 1 leased helicopter and a vision to provide emergency medical transport, executive flights, and disaster relief services. While everyone laughed at my ambition, I worked day and night, expanded internationally, acquired aircraft, and quietly built one of the largest private aviation companies in the world. My business was now worth billions, but I never felt the need to prove anything through expensive cars or designer clothes. I preferred taking the bus because it kept life simple and reminded me where I started. As soon as I walked through the front door, the familiar jokes began. My mother asked if the bus had arrived on time and suggested my father help me buy a used car. My father laughed that I was still living like a college student, while Claire proudly listed her newest luxury SUV alongside the other cars she already owned. Every relative who arrived added another comment about my transportation, my apartment, or my so-called failed business. They assumed my silence meant they were right. During dinner, they pushed even harder. They questioned my career, laughed at my aviation company, and suggested I should give up because no successful business owner would still take public transportation. Someone searched my company name online and discovered a multi-billion-dollar aviation corporation with international contracts. Instead of believing me when I admitted I had founded it, they convinced themselves I must be an employee using the same company name. When I calmly explained that I owned the business, they burst into laughter and accused me of living in a fantasy. I checked my watch and quietly told them they would have proof soon. My family demanded evidence, so I simply asked everyone to step outside and wait. They followed me into the backyard, convinced they were about to expose another lie. My relatives even started recording videos because they expected nothing to happen. A few minutes later, the distant sound of helicopter blades echoed across the neighborhood. At first, everyone insisted it was coincidence, but the noise grew louder until 3 sleek black helicopters appeared over the trees and descended toward the backyard in perfect formation. They landed one after another with military precision as my family stood frozen in complete disbelief. The lead pilot stepped out, saluted me, and greeted me as the founder and chief executive of the company. He updated me on international contracts and asked whether our crews should remain on standby. My relatives could barely speak. The same people who had mocked me for riding a bus were now staring at aircraft worth tens of millions of dollars, all operating under my command. Then I revealed another secret. 3 years earlier, my parents had nearly lost their house to foreclosure. Without telling them, I had purchased the property through one of my companies and leased it back to them at a price they could afford. They believed the bank had saved them, but it had actually been me all along. I had protected their home while they continued treating me like the family disappointment. My mother cried and asked why I had never told them the truth. I explained that every time I tried to share my dreams, they laughed before I could finish. Eventually, I stopped seeking their approval and focused on building my future instead. They had spent years measuring success by cars and appearances while completely ignoring the person behind the choices. I thanked my flight crew for making the trip, asked them to pack up the Thanksgiving meal so everyone could eat together later, and climbed aboard the helicopter. My father begged me to stay and talk, but I reminded him that he had already made his opinion of me clear long before that day. As we lifted into the sky, my phone filled with messages from relatives apologizing for everything they had said. I did not answer. Instead, I watched the neighborhood disappear beneath us and realized something important. The greatest revenge is never arguing with people who underestimate you. It is quietly building a life so extraordinary that one day the truth speaks louder than anything you could have said. While my family counted cars, I had spent years building an empire that owned the sky.